A very good morning and a warm welcome to one and all present over here, educators, teachers. Thank you so much for joining on another Super Sunday workshop. And I would like to welcome you all on, I think, the 141 video right now. I hope everybody is able to see me clearly and hear me clearly. That's yes, right? Great. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, teachers. One of the important questions that I came across in the last session was, why do we do the sessions live? Why don't we record the sessions and we put it on the YouTube so that the people can look at it anytime and multiple other people can look at it. This was the suggestion given by some of our team members who newly joined, and somewhere many feedbacks in the past by all of you had written that when something is live, the value is altogether different. We look forward to that particular day, that particular time. You know, almost everyone in this session knows very clearly that the session is going to be there on YouTube, even for tomorrow and even for day after tomorrow, etc., etc. However, the ability to come online at that particular time is altogether a different charm, I would say. It's some people very nicely use a word called as thrill. It's like a sense of discipline. We are able to be there. So in that sense, I would like to thank who have joined regularly online live every session. That really means a lot. That really means a lot. So I think now the audio will be comparatively better, and let's quickly get on with the session. Today's topic is one of the most important for all the teachers out there, considering one key aspect of being the citizen of a country. The other day we came across a scenario where we were there in a school. Some of my team members were also there in a school, and a child came to the teacher and asked about something related to the no confidence motion, something called as why is the election happening right now. And the teacher, she did not have a decent idea about it. She had a very fair idea, and in order to escape that question, she quickly said that, beta, this is not a science question. You go and ask the social teacher. She'll be in a better position to explain. While she's right, she's absolutely right. A social science teacher can, really explain this better. But it's also important to know that that particular question, the answer to which I think being in the education system, whoever is present should know the answer to. We are all part of a system created by human beings. How did this actually happen? So we are going to talk about this leadership. We're going to talk about the politics behind the leadership, the evolution of leadership, and more importantly, focusing on the Indian political system. And this cannot happen in one Super Sunday workshop, so we are dividing this into three parts. Predominantly this can be covered in two parts. However, the third part is quite interesting. So, for part number one, we are going to understand the Indian political system from a very overarching perspective. How does the leadership actually come into picture? Who really has the power? Why we talk about this power, and what's the roles and responsibility of each and every power up to a certain extent? We'll talk about this in the first session that's going to happen today, and we'll definitely have very good analogies with respect to the school system. And the second part of the session, which is going to be the next, where we will be talking about ministries. We'll be talking about why we have a different department for defense. Why do we have a ministry for education? Why do we have a ministry for agriculture? Who are these people? What are they really doing in India? How are the policies getting formed, which includes the national education policy? We'll also talk about the budgeting part about it. Okay, this much of budget, for example, I've got 100 crore rupees and I'm going to give, probably 1 lakh rupees to the education system. Why? Why 1 lakh at this current juncture to the education system? Why, 50 lakhs probably for agriculture? We'll talk about Nirmala ji to a very large extent in the second part of the session. The third is going to be quite interesting, which is basically on the core education aspects compared with many other countries. We'll talk about education system. We'll talk about the people involved in that. We'll talk about who did what kind of initiatives and where is the world going towards to. Now, once we understand these three parts, we'll get a very fair idea of how we are all governed. And we'll make sure that these sessions, the three sessions, are immediately applicable for the children as well, or the next person sitting beside you, even if they are not from the education background. Though the Indian political system does not really resonate with the topic of education directly,
but everybody who is part of the education system should be aware about the political system, at least in India. So let's understand this in a detailed manner one by one. Today's session will be quite short, probably in a very overarching manner. You can interrupt me anytime on the chat, ask any questions, and let's try to understand that. So I would like to welcome everyone once again to the next session, which is basically 141, the session of Super Sunday workshop on the topic of the Indian political system. I would also like to tell you today's reflection form questions are very interesting. These questions define what are competency based questions. You'll generally, if I have to tell in a very layman's terms, competency based questions are those questions for which you cannot find the answer in the textbook in a certain page number. You have to apply the brains. So today's question paper is going to be kind of tough. Not really direct question. Yeah, you can get 7 out of 10, that's for sure. But let's try that. Let's try that. I'm sharing my screen to begin with the session on the Indian political system and session number 141, part 1. For all the teachers who are joining for the first time, thank you very much for joining. You can know about Super Sunday workshops on the superteacher.in website, and you'll find there will be a section called as events, and under that you'll have Super Sunday workshop. Click on that, you will come to know what is the next topic. And that's how we will continue for today's session. The moment we get into Indian political system, we need to understand something very important. Understanding our nation's politics begins with understanding how we run our classrooms. It is starting from a teacher. Why do we even say that? Many people talk about the entrepreneurship. Many people talk about the startups. Many people aspire to become owners, which includes the principals as well to a very large extent. Now, when we talk about all these aspects, it did not happen just like that. It happened with practices over a long period of time. What do I mean by that? Back in those days, when people used to travel from one place to another in search of food and shelter predominantly, they used to be guided by one or two members of that particular community. Say, for example, if Rajeshwari ma'am is traveling with 10 of her family members, to a particular location, they're all going for a picnic. And this particular location, Rajeshwari ma'am knows very well about because she's teaching about this in the class. Probably she's going to Ooty for a picnic. Yeah. And she's talking about the Nilgiris mountains. She's talking about the eastern and western ghats in the class. And she's able to relate the area better to her experiences in the past. So there is a spotting of a lion or a elephant or something like that. Rajeshwari will automatically jump forward to tell the family members that these are very common in this area because it's there in the history book. In fact, today's session is heavily influenced by the NCRT book called as Democratic Politics, Part 1 and 2. I have the two. The Part 1 is somewhere down. So if you want to know more about today's session, you can upload the PDF of this on a AI platform and know the complete summary. So when Rajeshwari ma'am is talking about it to the family members by default understand that, oh, Rajeshwari is a good leader when we come to Ooty. But the interesting part is the same set of family members are again going to another tourist spot. Probably they're going to Konkani or Mangalore or Kulu Manali or Himalayas. And again, Rajeshwari is stepping forward. Immediately, there is a framing over there in the family stating that, hey, Rajeshwari is really good. She can be a good guide wherever we go. Automatically, Rajeshwari becomes the leader in that particular segment in search of a good tourist spot. I hope you're getting the point. This is what happened back in those days when tribal people travel from one place to another. And they elected a person or selected a person from their own family and they called as tribal leader. The problems actually started when the tribe became bigger and bigger because people had different opinions. Some people wanted to be the leader and could not be successful out of, say, probably insecurity, out of lack of knowledge, or out of competition. It could be anything. And the problems actually started. Then came the next form of government or next form of leadership, which could be related to this family is good for so and so. So in case of tribal leadership, I think you would have understood this. What really happens is the king and the queen. They have it's like a tribal leader is selected. He's not married, and the moment he gets married, immediately we frame them as Raja Rani, and the Rani takes control of certain activities, Raja takes control of certain activities. Now, at that particular time, there were different tribes. I'm repeating, the word is tribes, who gave importance to gender as well. Some tribal people gave importance to gender of male, and some gave it to female. Both were existing in terms of leadership. The gender male, when it is dominated for a certain type of leadership, was called as a patriarchal society. A patriarchal society. And where the man takes the lead forward and gives instructions to the community on what to be done, which was incidentally agreed upon even by the females. So there was no concept of feminist as such at that time. There was a collaboration because number of people were actually less. So in this way the people started developing, and once the marriage happens, the tribe thinks that these are the right people to take care of us. So Raja Rani becomes, and Raja Rani get their son or a daughter. If the son is there, by default people are like, oh, this son must definitely have this leadership quality of his father. Definitely he'll be doing a great job, and the son automatically becomes the next leader. So this particular aspect of Raja Rani continuing year long is also called as monarchies. So somewhere the first is tribal leadership. The second, over the period of time, became monarchies. Monarchies, a family running the system, and then you have rulers coming from various monarchies, starting to fight with each other, showing which is the better monarchy. You might have heard about Mauryas. You might have heard about dynasties like Mughal dynasties, Cholas over here in the south, then Pandyas and Pallavas, and all these are dynasties which are monarchies. I hope you're able to understand. And over the period of time, suddenly some people will come in, hey, this is a very bad form of leadership where only one family is taking care of everything, or one community is taking care of everything. That's not the right thing. I will tell you the right thing. Karke, they will start leading. Suddenly, it is like Priya coming and telling Rajeshwari, your leadership is very bad. You are unnecessarily fighting with other people. I will come and help you. And and people, they will be so good that people will trust them. One such, party that everybody trusted was the colonialism rule of British. These people went everywhere and said that we are the right people. Not that they were wrong all the time. They did bring some really good reforms, but it was more from the perspective of exploitation. So the British, which is called as colonial leadership. So it started with tribal leadership. Over the period of time, it became monarchies. Then monarchies led to dynasties, which led to something called as colonial leadership over the period of time. And finally, once colonial leadership became more prominent, and people realized that this is also really bad, we are behaving like slaves to these people unnecessarily. There was an enlightenment within because of leaders like probably Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose or Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, or even Mahatma Gandhi for that matter to a very large extent. Then people realize and they're like, no, this is wrong. Let's have a leader whom we elect. And people started calling it as constitutional leadership. And this became very prevalent across the globe. So these are the basic idea of leadership in the past. It all began from small community, growing to bigger and bigger and bigger. And that bigger and bigger led to multiple opinions, which led to evolution, and multiple evolutions led to the current form of government. Trust me, with the basic research that I've done, it is purely personal opinion. The current form of governance that at least India has is one of the best in the world. One of the best in the world. People are able to talk. People are able to talk itself is a big deal. I am able to speak about this right now, and nobody stopping me is a very big deal. There are countries where you can't open a mouth and even name the president of that particular country. You are shot dead for even the smallest of crimes. There are a lot of things that are happening across the globe. Trust me, we are there in the best political system in the whole world. Corruption is a different story altogether. Cleanliness is a different story altogether. It's the responsibility of citizenship as well. We'll talk about that in another day. But today, let's stick to the topic of this. So yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we're going to talk about Saudi Arabia to a very large extent right now. So let me share my screen and continue on this particular aspect, uh, how the leadership gets evolved. Now, depending on the type of whatever the people decide, there are different types of government that people go ahead with. The first one, which was very common back in those days, is called as monarchy, where one hereditary ruler will be there. The family will take care of everything. You can't have a control on that. You can go and ask them, I want to be the king. Yeah, you can ask them, but they'll not listen to you. Second is dictatorship. At least in monarchy, they listen to you, right? In dictatorship, they won't even listen. They'll not even allow you inside. One leader with absolute control, complete control. Even if you have to go and forget about it, let's not talk about it. One leader with absolute control, dictatorship. Third is democracy, where people elect their leaders. The interesting part about democracy is people elect their leaders, but a very close word is called as republic. elected head of state, but it is not hereditary. In case of democracy, it can be hereditary as well, but in case of republic, it cannot be. Look at this. We're going to come up with some example and you'll get a clear picture. Next is called as theocracy, which is religion guides governance. It's like, I am from Hindu community, I want a Hindu leader to be present. I am from Islam community, I want an Islam leader to be the leader. I want Christians. People nominate that and they're okay with that. And that's why it's called as theocracy. Religion guides governance. If there are social science teachers in the group, you can keep giving me examples in the chat so that the other teachers can also get an exposure on what these things are. Next is oligarchy. This is really good. A small group rules. This is predominantly, suddenly some military people will come and say that this country is not in the right hands. Let me take care of the whole group, the whole country, and the small group will take control, just have some guns or probably papers. It could be anything, but they'll start governing. Oligarchy is a small group rules. The next one is technocracy, which is actually suggested to a very large extent. Many people aspire to be this, which is experts and specialists rule. So-called doctorates. In India, do we really have a tag or something called as qualification to become a leader? No, we don't really have. Anybody can become a leader. Of course, there are qualities of leadership that you need to showcase and prove. That's a different story. But the point here is technocracy is not in India, but it is in a country called as Singapore. We'll talk about that. Now, when we talk about monarchy, dictatorship, democracy, republic, theocracy, oligarchy, technocracy, and there are many other subtopics behind this, one interesting part that you'll understand is not even a single country in the whole world has got only one part completely. Every country out there will have the combination of probably monarchy and dictatorship, probably democracy and republic, probably oligarchy, technocracy, and theocracy. Something like that. There'll be a combination out there which will govern the people. Now, why this combination? Because again, diversification. Many people from one country to another country keep traveling. There's migration. So there will be diversification for which the combination will work. Let us understand some of the example quickly. Monarchy के लिए, by the way, the difference between democracy and republic, let me show that to you. Huh. All republics are democratic. Yeah, at least from the perspective of power is derived from the people. Republics are democracy, but not all democracies are republics. That means constitutional monarchies. What really happens is sometimes the son of a king, basically the monarchy, becomes the king, but that person does not get to decide the rules and regulations. It is defined by the people. So though, for example, I can give UK as an example. So where there is still the royal palace present out there, but the constitution is made based on the people's choices, right? So they have to abide by that. Though it is a monarchy, but it is by the people, constitution. So that's why it's called as constitutional monarchy, which is basically not a republic, but democracy. I hope you're able to understand. Don't get into too much of details and storm your brain on this, but this is absolutely fine. A basic understanding is more than sufficient for this particular part. Now this is basically monarchy. One hereditary ruler, Saudi Arabia, we're talking about it. King Salman bin Abdulaziz is the person over here on the left, and his son is basically Mohammed bin Salman. They are the two people who are like closely working on Saudi Arabia. Some of the leaders out there, visionary leaders, and they've done a great job. In fact, they are the first people to tell that robots can have citizenship in a country, and they made Sophia the robot as the citizen of their country. So quite a visionary leader. In fact, they also came up with the wall city idea. I think many of you know about it. You should look into their governance. So the governance is really good. People liking it, and it's continuing. One hereditary rural monarchy, Saudi Arabia, King Salman bin Abdulaziz. Read about it. Great visionary. Now, one important point that I would like to register over here right in the beginning: any form of government, is it good or bad, is not defined by the meaning of it. It is defined by the behavior of that particular set of people. I'll repeat it. The success of a government, which has been the practice for a very long time, is not a function of the government's definition, but it's a function of the people's behavior. So, somewhere when we say if a government is successful, we don't really say that the king is successful. Actually, it's not the case. The people are successful in following the rules and regulations, ensuring success. It's a deep statement again. Think about it. Let's go to the next part. Monarch power is limited. Yeah, it depends upon the political organization. Definitely. Now again, that depends on what kind of government it is. Now let's go to the next. Exactly, it depends on leader, of course. Let's go to the next one, and for that, come on. Ah, next is dictatorship. I think everybody knows about this fellow. Yeah, this man, this leader. One leader with absolute control. This is North Korea. Kim Jong Un. It's very difficult to categorize him under the category of president or prime minister. So people call him the ruler, the boss. Yeah. Read about North Korea. It's uh, one of the experience that you will get to understand what is freedom. You will start appreciating even the fact that you are having the freedom to open the doors of your home when actually required. So it's a great. You students have great inspiration. Okay. Kim Jong Un, ruler. He has been very successful in bringing North Korea to wherever it is. Quite the developments, but freedom. Think about it. It's called as dictatorship. Adolf Hitler. I think everybody knows about it. The third category that I would like to talk about is democracy. People elect their leaders. For example, India, United States of America. So we, Sri Narendra Modi ji, Prime Minister of India, Donald Trump, President of United States of America. This is purely democracy, where people elect their leaders. And interestingly, these are not hereditary, right? So that's why it's republic as well. So that's the reason even under the republic category, we can have USA and India. But let's go to the next one. This is with respect to republic, elected head of state, India, USA, Germany, France. And these are some of the presidents who have been there in the chair for a very long time. So Frank Walter is basically the president of Germany. Emmanuel is basically Emmanuel Macron. That's how he's called. The president of France. Again, these are two. I would request you to please read about Frank Walter because he is one of the greatest visionary in terms of education. You remember we spoke about the psychology of praise. We spoke about something called as Waldorf education system. We spoke about there are a lot of topics that we spoke about which came from Germany. So you should read about Frank Walter and also read about the education system in Germany and the budget that they have allotted for that. Then you'll feel bad that you're there in India from budget point of view. But anyways, a great leader out there. This is basically a republic government. Let's go forward and understand this. I think most of you know this. Robert Prevost, Pope, Vatican City. This is purely called as theocracy. Religion guides governance. So here Christianity is the ultimate, and you're like people following that. Come join. Let's live a life. Vatican City, it's a country. See how ironic it is. It's a country, but it's a city. So Robert Prevost is the Pope, the new Pope. I think nominated and selected this May 2025. Read about him. This is not the topic today, so that's the reason I'm going forward. The next one is another interesting area called as oligarchy. A small group rules Russia, China. So you got Xi Jinping, President China. Again, oligarchy is working pretty well in China. People are loving it, and that's why it's continuing for a very long time. Again, a very long time. I think from 2013, if I'm not wrong, Sir is the president. Yeah, read about him. Lot of problems with him right now of late from India and China. That's not the topic today, so we'll go forward. And the next one is basically uh, technocracy. Yeah, this is something that you would love. So if anybody wants to understand technocracy and its beauty and its charm, you should go to Singapore. So Tharman Shanmugaratnam, President Singapore. So you can so basically he has got his expertise in technology. He's got his expertise in psychology. You read about him. It's like he's a great leader with respect to the knowledge as well. Yeah, that's a great idea, right? Technocracy, people who are educated, well learned, lead the country. And Singapore is a perfect example of that. Should know that. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So this is with respect to technocracy. So India, where does India stand? We're coming to so all these type of government. So we are coming to this particular part. Where does India stand? India is a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliamentary system of government. I'll repeat it. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic with a parliamentary system of government. What I mean to say over here is, teachers, all these words that we're talking about are different forms of government put in one place. So I told you, right? There is a combination of different type of governance. So that's how this thing has come into picture. So let's understand this in a split manner. So the same statement is written separately. India is a sovereign, which is basically a supreme ruler, especially a monarch. That means there'll be one single ruler. Is there a ruler like that in our country? Yes, we've got the prime minister. But it is not just that, it is also socialist, which means that socialism is an economic and political system where the community or the government owns and controls the means of production, distribution, exchange, often with the goal of creating more equal society. Now, when they say equal, this is with respect to equity. That is the reason it is sovereign. The person who's the leader should also have the consciousness of socialism, who talks about equity to a very large extent. That's why we have the policy of reservation. That's why we take care of certain benefits for certain sect of people. I hope you're able to understand. That's socialist. What's the next word? Secular. Now, this particular person who's so-called supreme or sovereign is not connected with religious or spiritual matters. It should not be like I am coming from Hinduism, so I should promote Hinduism everywhere. Should not be the case. If that is the case, people can choose to change the person. That's why the next word called as democratic. See how nicely they've done this. Sovereign for sure. Socialist should be there. It's an attitude part. Secular is a rule, mandate rule. And who does this? People do that. That's why democratic. A system of government where the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly. Next is republic, which is basically a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected leader representatives, which has an elected or nominated president rather than a hereditary. That's why they call it as monarch. So it's a beautiful thing, right? Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, and republic with a parliamentary system. Now, parliamentary system, we will talk about this in detail in the next session. You remember we were talking about it. But right now, a form of government where the executive branch, the government, whoever is there, it's a room full of leaders, is accountable to the legislative branch. That means there is a person representing that room, probably called as speaker. Currently, Sri Om Birla is the person. So the people who are in the parliament, the leaders, should be reporting to the speaker. Now see how beautiful it is. And the head of the government, the prime minister, is a member of parliament. The prime minister is also there in the same department, the same room. That means the supreme ruler is part of the same room who has to report to another speaker selected by him. So the best part about the whole system is like nobody's powerful. It is like very difficult to say who has got better power. That is the reason nobody can claim that I am the leader in our country. And there is a separate body called as judicial system. They keep governing if all of us are working properly or not. So, uh, okay, yeah. Mm, Thank you so much for bringing that, Sharmila ma'am. Teachers here, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic, whatever I have written in the bracket is more of an exaggerated explanation just for understanding in the current scenario for Super Sunday workshop. Sovereign is much more deeper. Socialist is much more deeper. Secular is not just about religion. It has got few more other matters, which is spiritual, and even the caste systems come into picture. Democracy is even more deeper. But just to give you a fair understanding, I have written single lines which does not convey the complete message. Sharmila ma'am is absolutely correct with that particular regard. So that's the reason I've written that. So please go and cross verify that. But overarchingly, you can take this up right now to understand what is India. That's it, as simple as that. So let's go. Constitution for a country not controlled by any other country. You're right. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah. We are not mentioning that because we're talking only about India. Thank you so much for mentioning that. So let's go with the next part of India's government. How does this leadership gets formed? For example, India's government at national level is broadly divided into three branches. This is the last part of the session where we talk about executive, legislature, judiciary. That means this particular government, the complete form of government that got formed, is categorized under three terms of leadership. One is executive. These are the people who sit in the parliament and decide the policies. Next is legislature. Basically, these policies are made by them and represents people via elected members. The third is judiciary, which checks basically like law if it is followed or not. The police department checks constitutionality. That's how judiciary forms. Let us understand this with an example. First one is executive. Executive is basically head of state. Head of state is basically the country over here. It's not just the state. Interestingly, executive is for the state and the country. We'll talk about that. Right now, whatever we are speaking is from the India as a complete perspective, not just from state perspective. We'll talk about state in a detailed manner in the next workshop. So, head of state, nominal or ceremonial head. That means Srimati Draupadi Murmu, who's the president of India. What is the role? Formally signs bills into law, appoints certain top officials, represents India on a ceremonial occasions. That's it. That's it. It's just like they don't really. So when we say nominal, somewhere if I have to again give you an exaggerated term, which is not the right thing, called as for the namesake. I'll repeat it, for the namesake. President is there, but they've got supreme powers, lot of powers. In fact, president can take the complete control of the country in case of something happens to the prime minister. Now, the Prime Minister is basically the head of the government. Real power comes over here. Shri Narendra Modi ji, Prime Minister of India. He is supported by the Council of Ministers, Cabinet, ministers in charge of different departments, finance, defense, home, external affairs, education, etc. Now, these people report to Prime Minister directly. It is just like, if I have to give you a quick example, the nominal or ceremonial head that we're talking about over here, the president is basically the school's chairperson. Can I say that? They don't really play an important role in the running of the school apart from probably signing one or two papers. The school principal is basically the main power over here, head of the government. I think so, if this is relatable. And the multiple department HODs will be there, or the vice principal will be there. The coordinators will be there. They come under the category of Council of Ministers or Cabinet. I think the team has put a analogy slide as well. We'll look into it. So bureaucracy and civil services at center and states, which are like IAS, IPS, these people are permanent executive machinery that ensures continuity beyond changing governments. So they don't change even if the government changes. And in India, it's the 5 years term. We'll be talking about that in the next session. So president is more like the figurehead, symbolic head. Prime Minister plus the cabinet team that actually runs the show. MD is the President Rizwana ma'am. Principal is the Prime Minister. HOD and teachers are Council of Minister. Super ma'am. You're right. Absolutely. Let's go forward. Second is legislature. So that's the three things. Executive runs day-to-day administration. We understood that. Next is legislature. Now, what is legislature? Legislature is basically the room, so-called Parliament of India, which has two important houses. One is called as Lok Sabha, which is basically elected by the people, and then something called as Rajya Sabha, which is elected by the elected people. So the people who are House of the People, say for example, if Narendra Modi ji or is the Prime Minister of the country who is there out there, he will be selecting a particular person to become the member in the Rajya Sabha. Now, why this happens, I'll talk about that later. But a quick example is Sudha Murthy, ma'am. I think everybody knows about her. She's basically the wife of Narayan Murthy, who runs Infosys. She's one of the Rajya Sabha member. She was not elected by the people. She was selected by Narendra Modi ji. I hope you're able to understand. So, Council of States, so Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, which is House of the People, and Council of States, members represent states and union territories. So, every state will have Rajya Sabha members. We'll talk about this again in detail. Who are those people in the next workshop? But as of now, you need to understand there is something called as Parliament, just like a staff room, and there are some people like Lok Sabha, which are elected by the people, and these people who are elected by the people will select few other members of representation. They'll be like, so and so person is the right person to represent me. Who are called as Rajya Sabha. You have students council in your school. Oh, very good point over there. Celebrities from sports, art, etc. Exactly. The process is like somebody comes with an idea, so they call that idea as a bill, and they debate over that bill. Many people deliberately debate and say that it's wrong, and it's important to have deliberation, which people call as Socratic questioning. And then the voting happens. If passed, it's sent to the president for assent. So though Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is selecting Sudha Murthy is actually appointed with appointment letter, probably by the president, not probably, actually by Draupadi Murmu ma'am. So this is how the process happens. Parliament also approves union budget, taxes, plays oversight of government, debates, national issues, and we'll talk about parliament. It's just like staff room. I do not know how many times you have thrown duster at other teacher in the staff room, but that has quite commonly happened in the Indian parliament. They didn't throw the duster, but at least the actions were made probably. But there are a lot of parliaments in the various countries where even the slippers were thrown. I don't want to talk which country it is. You can Google about it. So, Speaker of Lok Sabha, currently Om Birla, presides over Lok Sabha proceedings. So people report to him. So this is legislature. So first is the executive, second is the legislature, which is more of representation, and the third part. Let me come back. Sorry. The third part is basically judiciary, who ensures laws are followed and rights are protected. Now, here we'll not get into the details in this session. This will be the third session. The apex is Supreme Court of India, the highest court of appeal, guardian of the Constitution, something whatever you have written as the rule book. Judiciary can strike down laws if they violate the Constitution, ensures checks and balances. Now, if I have to talk about why this three methodology, now we have executive, legislature, and judiciary. Why we have these three? Because none of them is powerful. Everybody is accountable to everyone else. It is an independent body, judiciary. So, for example, executive accountable to legislature. Since PM and council are drawn from the parliament, ensures government reflects people's will. People have selected. Judiciary is independent, ensures laws and executive actions follow constitution, protect citizens. Even if prime minister is wrong, it's wrong. So, who is the ultimate power? The Chief Justice of India. Chief Justice is basically the judge who is present in the Supreme Court. He is the most powerful? No, we can't say that as well. Division of powers between center and states helps manage a very large and diverse country, avoid concentration of power. This is always the case. In fact, that is the reason people say that Russia and United States cannot have all the power. So there is a, agreement among all the countries that you cannot make your own nuclear weapons. Even if you need to tell what are the weapons that you have to the whole world. Russia is also supposed to tell that. India is also supposed to tell the document that these are the weapons that we possess. And interestingly, you can exchange these weapons. You can buy these weapons. It's a global politics is like it's very confusing. Why do people do that? So it's basically like power shared, power checked, power balanced. That is why we have got checks and balances in three forms. People call it as three organs of the Indian political system. What exactly is federal system? We'll talk about it a little later in the next workshop. And coming to the point, Indian political system with the school system analogy. So constitution is basically the school rule book and vision, the ultimate guide for all the decisions. This should be having the feature of amendments regularly, where you can change certain rules which are not really applicable at the current scenario. You can change that. The president is basically the school chairman, ceremonial head. Flag hoisting के लिए please call the correspondent of the chairman. Approves major decisions. I want another land piece to build another school altogether or construct a computer science lab because now I feel that computer science is important. Something like that. Prime Minister, in many schools that has happened. I myself know that. Prime Minister, which is basically the principal, runs the day-to-day functioning. If the school is running good, credit goes to the principal. If the school is running bad, again credit goes to the principal. Principal is thrown out of the school. Principals are really power. They are really sad people. It's very difficult. At least in Indian government, there is so much of diversification that the prime minister can always come and tell, have done so and so activities, which has done so and so good deeds for at least so and so people, right? But principles are not like that. They have to follow the Indian Constitution rule book and also the school rule book, which is made by the president, probably the chairman of that particular school. Imagine the principal's plight. Very difficult. Anyways, Council of Ministers, heads of departments, basically HODs, each handles one major area: finance, academic, security, health, etc. Then comes Parliament, which is basically the school managing committee, which involves even the parents. I think you know that you have a document in CBSE on that. So, Lok Sabha is parent and community representatives. You've got Rajya Sabha, which is senior advisor experts, and these senior advisors experts are selected by the Lok Sabha people, the principal probably. Next is judiciary, which is a separate body altogether. Probably I can put Government of India and CBSE to be part of this. I do not know how much relevant it will be. Grievance Discipline Committee ensures fairness, protects rights, resolve conflicts. And central government is the main branch of the school. State government is the branch campuses. Chief Minister, Governor is the branch principal and branch chairman. Civil services, IAS, IPS, IFS are the administration staff who always are present irrespective of the change of management, even if it's a principal for that matter. So this is the school analogy that the theme has given. Now, when we talk about these three things, I'll come back to the same thing: executive, legislature, and judiciary. This is not just for the country as a whole, but it is also for the respective states. I'll repeat it, it is also for the respective states. If India has got 28 states, each of them will have executive, legislature, and judiciary. And they very closely collaborate with the central, basically called as a union government or the central government, and they come up with politics and policies. That's it. So this was something with respect to the Indian political system that I wanted to talk about, to give you a brief understanding on the leadership part, how the governments are divided across the globe, and where India is standing. And that is the reason I very strongly believe, when we know that there is something called as monarchy existing even now, when we know there is something called as oligarchy existing even now, or dictatorship existing even now, India being the kind of sovereign state, the kind of secular state, the kind of democracy that's implemented, the kind of republic that we are in the best form of government. Is it happening properly or not is a different question altogether. But we are in the best form of government or governance. That's point number one. Point number two, we understood that nobody holds a separate supreme power. That's the best part. So here in India, we have got the system made under three forms. One is called as executive, second is called as legislature, and the third one is called as judiciary. Judiciary keeps a check of the executive and legislature. Legislature has a control over the executive and sometimes even the people under judiciary. The best part about the first one, where the president, executive, they don't have complete control. They're just nominal for predominantly for most of the things, but they are really powerful, which we have understood in the form of a school analogy as well, with school staff room se lekar chairman, the principal, the students, including students are basically the people probably. Yeah. And many schools have this practice of having student elections. We'll talk about that in the next Super Sunday workshop in a detailed manner. What elections are, how are these executive members selected or elected, where is election commission coming into picture, what are the malpractices that are happening, why is Rajiv Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi suddenly talking about Indian National Congress to a very large extent and saying that a lot of things are fake. Why is the current government, basically the BJP government, claims that India has got the best education system, and how did they prove that with NEP? That's another milestone. So we'll talk about all these aspects in a more practical example with the names of the people in the upcoming session. So that brings me to the end of the session on understanding uh, the Indian political system, teachers. I hope you got an idea on what exactly are these. We'll talk about the numbers, the princely states. We'll talk about the number of seats in Lok Sabha. We'll talk about the president's capacity to select the Rajya Sabha members. What is the number? All these things in the further sessions. But right now, to let us not take too much on our load, this much is enough for us to have a basic understanding. We have got some of the elections coming up very shortly in some states. I think we have an election coming up in Tamil Nadu in the upcoming year. So a lot of things are there, and it's very important for all the education, leaders out there, which are like teachers as well, to have a fair understanding of Indian system. So we are all part of a system, and we can change the system or enhance it only when we know the system. You can't avoid it. How much ever you try, you can't avoid it. We'll start from Panchayat in the next Super Sunday workshop. But until then, thank you so much, teachers, for being so consistent and being part of the system and the session for such a long time. Spend time with your family, teachers. I'll come back with the next Super Sunday workshop with the Indian political system part 2. Until then, bye and Jai Hind. Thank you so much. Today's reflection form questions are a little tricky. They are all competency based questions. I would request you to please carefully, answer those. Oh, thank you so much, Nisha, ma'am. Many people don't like social studies. I'm telling you, social studies define who we are in the current session. Social studies define who we are as a character. Many of you would have already come with the situation that we follow a certain political party, not because we know that party very well, but just because our parents were following them. If I love BJP today, it's because my father loves him. I love Congress today because my mother loves Congress. It has become like that. Nobody really knows what's really happening, including myself for that matter. Because it's a network, it's a web, it's like a spider web, which is heavily complicated. But let's begin somewhere to declutter that. Yeah. Oh, yes, I have forgotten to share the presentation. I'm sharing it right away. I would again repeat, Sharmila ma'am, thank you for bringing it up. All the teachers out there, whatever's there on the presentation, cross verify, learn about it. These are all small opening doors. Um, Considering the style of presentation that I generally do, I exaggerate information, sometimes can convey wrong information as well. So make sure you cross verify that, read about it a little more, and then get into the next level of understanding. So I'm sharing the link on the chat in three. Where is it? Two and one. I think got it right. Thank you, Deva Manogari ma'am. Romba Thank you so much. Sukdina ma'am, thank you. Shri Kumari ma'am, thank you. Oh yes, Sharmila ma'am, the settling is happening. Yeah, I did not get a good chair and Super Sunday spot as such right now. That's why it's not really symmetrically aligned today. But nicely you identified that. I'll do that. I'll do that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Asha ma'am. Thank you, Aruna ma'am. Madhavi ma'am, Lata ma'am, I would like to request all the teachers out there to immediately look into the presentation or the video back again and talk about it to someone. Okay, Sugri Verma, sir, I'm not sure, sir or ma'am, please write an email to rajesh@superteacher.in. He will get back to you. Yes, Raja Rajeshwari ma'am. No, thank you, Sharmila ma'am, means a lot. Thank you, Rama ma'am. Thank you, Mitali ma'am. Thank you so much. Trupti ma'am, no. Thank you so much. It means a lot. Thank you, Shabana ma'am. Thank you, Parna ma'am. Good to see you. Ramandeep ma'am, thank you so much. Let's meet again with another interesting workshop. Next topic is quite interesting. Yeah. Yes, Sulaja ma'am. I would very strongly urge all the teachers, irrespective of the subject that you teach, the most basic thing that we need to know, being in this system of government that is India. Uh, let's not send the children to a social science teacher to at least talk about who's the chief minister of the state. That itself is a you know So at least the civics part, I would really love, read the NCRT books. I mean, you can't find a better book than NCRT anywhere. I'm telling you, I've read so many articles on so many topics, but the way these people have written, I do not know who writes this. Of course, there are a lot of irresponsible work by CBSE in a lot of skill modules. I can't deny that. But somewhere, the people who are writing, this curriculum of NCRT, undoubtedly the best. I'm trying to challenge them and I'm trying to write better science and maths books. I know it's near to impossible, but I'll strive towards. That's where the competition happens and the development happens. So look at the book. There are many publications who look into our computer science curriculum, they get inspired by it and they redo it. And then I'm like, oh wow, they've done that. So let me work again. And this competition leads to better yield, I would say. Better quality of content coming out. And with better quality of content, better learning, with better learning, directly proportional to nation's development. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, you scored 9 out of 10. That's interesting. If you're scoring 9 out of 10 in today's session and 10 out of 10, oh, that's interesting. Okay. Quiet the type of questions. That's competency based questions. Thank you, Sunita ma'am. Good to see you. Yeah. Chalo, let's close on the session today, teachers. It's a Sunday. I would request all the teachers to spend time with your family, your children, your parents. One call probably to someone whom you did not call for a very long time, could be one of your friends. Let's stay connected with people, and then let's talk about by the people, of the people, and for the people. In the next session, I'll meet you in the next Super Sunday workshop. Have a Super Sunday, teachers. Bye, everyone.